snorted. "Pretending you are ever going to lay hands on a single file, are we?" Kadka was incredibly capable and resourceful in a great many ways, but she had no patience for anything she considered boring work. "If these two weren't here, you'd long since have told me Iskar needs you to babysit the dragons and left a Kadka-shaped hole in the door." Kadka just leaned further back in her chair, clasping her hands behind her head. "He's not the excuse. Not my fault growing dragons need attention." That was fair. She had been spending a great deal of time with Iskar and his young siblings, and raising 2 dragonlings was a task that Tane wouldn't wish on anyone without help. "But they are here, so is not problem, yes?" She grinned and waved at the files. "Go to work, girls." Tinga sighed. "Just how I wanted to spend my break." Fine. She ambled reluctantly over and snatched a file off the stack. Sestra followed behind and took another. Whatever the girl said, she did do enough work helping Tinga that Tane felt guilty sometimes for not paying the both of them. Not that I could afford to, especially without any new work coming in. In the 4 months since Tane and Kadka had tracked down Tinga for her parents and put away Felissa Thorpe, they'd only been hired for small cases here and there, and not by anyone who could afford to pay well. A decline in need might be a positive sign for Thalas, but it was terrible for business. And Tane wasn't convinced that it was a good thing anyway. It felt more like the underworld was holding its breath along with everyone else, waiting to see what Indo Stuk would do next. There hadn't been any sign of the would-be emperor since he'd stolen Thorpe's astral excavation machine and the expired dragon egg that should have borne Iskar's 3rd sibling. But something was coming. Tane was sure of that deep in his gut. And whatever it was going to be big. A sudden pressure in his ears interrupted that thought before he could follow it any further into the dark. "Tane?" Indri's voice sounded in his head. "Are you busy?" "Too busy for you? Perish the thought." He felt a sense of amusement through the astral link, but Indri's tone was serious. "This isn't social, unfortunately. I need you and Kadka to meet me at the Brass Citadel." "The Citadel?" That got his attention. Indri was the Lady Protector's liaison with the constabulary. If she was asking them there, Lady Abena was probably involved. He and Kadka had been to the seat of Audish government before, but they'd never been summoned there officially. "What is it, Ree?" "No one's in any immediate trouble, but it's better to explain it in person." "How soon can you be here?" "Carver?" Kadka had noticed his distracted state now and leaned forward in her chair. "Is this sending? A client?" "Ree," he said. "She wants us at the Citadel, and fast." Kadka stood up with a nod. "If Indri calls us, it's important. Shouldn't wait." "My thoughts exactly." Tane got up from his chair, opened a drawer, and tucked the handful of emergency charms he kept on hand into his pocket. "We're leaving now," he sent to Indri. 20 minutes on the discs, probably. Longer if I pretty myself up for you." He crossed to the door and took his old topcoat and scarf from a hook on the wall. An early winter chill had crept into the air of late, and a few light snows had already fallen. "No flirting while I'm working," she sent back fondly. "I'll meet you at the gate." With that, the sending pressure in his ears died. Kadka was already holding open the door, waiting. She hadn't bothered to so much as put on a coat, but then she'd experienced winters in Severna that were surely colder than anything Audland had to offer. Tane hung his scarf around his neck and took a quick backward glance at Tinga and Sestra. Tinga straightened eagerly. "Can I?" "This sounds official," Tane interrupted. "They're not going to let us bring just anyone in. Besides, we need someone here if a client comes by." "But it's—" "Mind the office," he said over his shoulder, and threw the end of his scarf over his shoulder as he stepped out onto the street. He could still hear Tinga grumbling as Kadka let the door swing closed behind them. Chapter 2. Crossing Audlian's way toward the Brass Citadel, Tane couldn't help but note how empty it was. A smattering of light early snow had been trampled underfoot in a single path down the center.